I always say to people, and it's always relationships over transactions. At the end of the day, if you're chasing quick wins and cheap wins and trying to get ahead and get over your network in some way, shape or form, yeah, you might get ahead initially, but in the long run, it's the relationships that are the assets that really last.
All right. Today we are joined by Luke Hartelust, an entrepreneur, founder, operator, currently the CEO of MNLY, a men's precision health startup leveraging diagnostics and AI to deliver personalized health protocols for high-performing men. That was a mouthful, but it sounds awesome. And today we're diving into how Luke is building a D2C health brand from scratch, his approach to capital-efficient growth, and why brand might be your most undervalued growth lever. Luke, what's up, man? Thanks for joining.
Cody, it's a pleasure, mate. Appreciate you having me on. I'm excited.
So MNLY is operating in a very competitive men's health D2C space, e-commerce space. Like, walk us through your business model. Are you purely D2C? And how does the AI diagnostic component affect your business?
Yeah, great question. I'll give you a bit of a backstory on the how and the why, the reason that we built MNLY and the way we built it and the differentiation strategy behind it. So very high level, I relocated from Oz to over to the US 2016. And I brought, you're probably familiar with it, the F45 training franchise over from Sydney to SoCal at the time. Scaled a small portfolio of facilities between LA and San Diego over a 5 or 6 year period before we got acquired in 2022. But while I was the CEO, I got to experience working with so many different individuals in so many different levels of fitness and health and wellness in general. And all of them were chasing the same thing. And that was essentially they were pursuing a better level of well-being than they were currently experiencing. And for the latter part of that career, I spent most of my time outside of operations working in a high performance capacity with male entrepreneurs and executives and professionals. And while I was the CEO of the portfolio over that period, I was doing everything right? Like, I was fit, I was ripped, I was jacked, I was training, twice a day. I was eating well, I was recovering properly. And I was taking all the supplements that were designed to essentially improve my biometrics and my recovery, right? And something was off for quite a long time, for a couple of years. And I bit the bullet and I went and got blood work done. And it turns out my testosterone was at 280, which, if anyone listening to this is familiar with that, I was basically female at the point, right? And so the natural transition at the time, because the tech wasn't there, was to jump straight on TRT, right? Because at the time I was quite optimized in every other area of my life, and all the things I was doing were actually designed to support hormone optimization and balance as well, but it obviously didn't work. And I was 30, which is quite young to get on TRT. And at the time, it was the only real solution. And so I jumped on it, and, not knocking TRT or anything. It's a great solution. I feel amazing. But had there been another product or solution to try first, I definitely would have done that. And so between working with dozens and dozens and dozens of male entrepreneurs at that level, and then my own experience, I just realized there was that need for another option in the men's health space. And so I looked at the telehealth model. And at the time, the telehealth model had completely disrupted the health vertical, right? It completely changed the way that we are able to go and get consultations, get prescriptions. We now didn't really have to leave our house and go to the doctor's office, essentially, which was completely disruptive. But the problem with that model is that at every touch point for the member or the client or the customer, they get placed into a bottleneck, which is a wait list at some point in the customer journey. And I had a conversation with a number of, dozens and dozens of people in that were clients and members of some of the top telehealth companies in the US. And majority of them had the same issue. They would get the bloods done, but then they would wait up to 90 days until they actually had the practitioner conversation. At that point, the bloods are redundant, right? We know how fast our bloods change depending on our environment and what we do. And so looking at this model and looking at, the decline in men's health and the male statistics in the US, my theory was that the reason that the men's health stats are still declining rapidly over females is because men are not as proactive with their health. They're just not, right? And part of that reason is because there's too much friction for men to get the protocols and the solutions that they need, simply because they don't want to take time out of their busy schedules. And so what we did at Manly was I built a phenomenal science board and phenomenal science team of naturopaths, neuroscientists, data scientists, nutritionists, to then build a first of its kind product and platform essentially in the men's space. And what we did was we removed the telehealth component, built a complex recommender, which is an AI, and then plugged that in to fast track the process. So now you can go and sign up and get the support, the solutions, and the results in less than 50% of the time. And the way that we did that is we surveyed 500 professional men, because that's obviously our target demographic, to figure out what the top categories of male environmental health are that they prioritize over everything else. The results from that survey were focus, confidence, stamina, mood, sleep, libido, and recovery. So we built a really in-depth 86 question health assessment to cover those key pillars. We then partnered with a third-party certified lab to provide an at-home self-test solution. So we know that part of the problem and the friction point with men is that they have to book the blood draw. That's step one. That's one of the first bottlenecks. So for us, we wanted to make sure that the process was seamless and automated, and they could do it on their own time. So it's designing the ownership for the actual client and customer as well. And so it's an at-home self-test solution. Right now, it's a finger prick. I'll talk about some changes that we're making very soon, because by the time this airs, I should be able to. But it's very, very simple. It's a dry blood spot sampling. So finger prick, send it back to our lab. The lab analyzes that blood work and then sends the raw data back to our system. And so with the complex recommender, we use the environmental and the biological data, which is about 100, just over 100 data points that we have on the user. And then it produces a really comprehensive health report. The health report, again, the changes are not a 42-page PDF with all of these numbers and markers that you can't interpret. And then you have to go and have a consultation. It's on a dashboard, it's visual, it's dynamic, and it's interactive. So you can see your exact results through graphs, diagrams, and also the hard numbers, but then also information about what your result is and what it means and what the marker actually is and how it correlates to your overall health. And then the second component of the model is using that data. Our AI builds you a custom health plan. So the health plan consists of nutrition protocols, which are based on the way you scored on specific blood markers, and then lifestyle protocols, which are based on your environmental health assessment, which, think biohacks for men, essentially. And then our main solution right now is our precision supplement packs. So based on your exact blood work data, and I get this question, I'm just going to squash this because you'll probably ask it anyway, but I get this question a lot, which is, are these actually precision supplements? How are you building them in real time? Are you not just grouping people into demographics or segments and then giving them the same thing? The answer is no. So the way that the model works is based on your exact data. We have a number of different ingredients that you could potentially get in your formulation. But it's not just the ingredients that are custom, it's also the doses of those ingredients. So based on your blood work, you'll get a specific ingredient, but you also get a specific dosage of that ingredient, depending on how optimal or suboptimal your markers are. And then that's packed and shipped every 30 days and sent to your doorstep.
I love it. People are tired of the primary care provider providing my health recommendations that he took like 12 units of nutrition and 8 years of med school. I think people are a little tired of that one. So you had a LinkedIn post that January 2024 secured a major partnership with HYROX, which I definitely want to come back to. But then May 2024, it says officially launched our product to market. So you had an official partnership with one of the probably the fastest rising fitness event in the world. And then 5 months later, you actually officially launched. So tell the story. You were telling me a little bit pre-recording a little bit. I think that's super interesting.
Mate, it's honestly the securing the partnership with HYROX has been, overall the biggest win and leverage point and highlight of the journey so far with the startup. And not only just from a growth perspective, But from a network perspective and working with a company that is growing so fast, yet they are, which was one of my, which was kind of surprised me quite a bit, which I was, sorry, it surprised me quite a bit because their leadership team was so heavily involved, and the way that they were able to collaborate with us was nothing that I've ever experienced before. And I've done a lot of strategic partnerships in my career over the last 10 years, but these guys have been really, really great to work with. So quick shout out to the HYROX team. But getting this to market was a huge challenge, and we spoke about it off mic a little bit, but the nature of this model is fairly capital intensive, right? We have the development costs for the tech, lab partner integration costs, the supplement ingredient purchasing costs. So the way that we buy our ingredients is we buy everything in bulk from a range of different sources, and then we bring it over to our co-packer. So when you're buying things in bulk, the minimum unit quantity is 100 to 100,000, 200,000 units. So it's pretty capital intensive. So I had to raise capital, right? And I launched the round in probably the worst time to launch a round in the last 15, 20 years, which was in 2023, when basically VC economy the ass fell out of the VC economy, essentially. And so I was getting knocked back pitch after pitch after pitch for quite some time. I was managed to get some small check sizes in, but nothing that was essentially going to move the needle. And at the time, again, as you kind of mentioned, I had a pitch deck and an MVP of our product. And I knew that I needed big traction. And to get traction without making sales is basically to get distribution. And distribution is strategic partnerships or audience. And so I reached out to a contact who was the head of growth at HYROX at the time. And me and him had some conversations over the years. And we, 3 months later, we managed to actually get the deal done and secure our spot as the exclusive men's health partner of HYROX USA.
Can you share the specific number
of what it costs? I can. It was multiple six figures at the time.
Multiple six figures without a product. You heard it here first.
Yeah. And so, and at the time, as I said, we also didn't have the capital to be able to allocate to a significant partnership like that as well. So it was a huge roll of the dice, a huge swing of the bat. That's, as we spoke before, the strategic and the smart and safe way would have been to put that into meta ads, right? Because we know we're going to get return on that amount of capital for a direct-to-consumer product, essentially. And given our margins, we would have had a good ROAS, and given the LTV, we end up happening. But at the time, I was really looking at how do we build a foundation for a brand that's going to last more than 5, 10 years, 20 years down the track. And to me, that's through brand equity. And when I say brand equity, I mean brand credibility, brand trust, and community, essentially. And a strategic partnership with the size and magnitude of a company like HYROX can provide all those things if it's executed properly, right? And that's really what our focus point was when we got that partnership, because it was every single resource that we had put in that one bucket and resources that we didn't have. We knew that we had to show up powerfully, and we knew that we had to trial and test every single strategy touch point, pre, intra, and post marketing and messaging and offer that we could until we found something that worked and something that stuck. And through that partnership, what we ended up accomplishing at the end of our first season was pretty substantial, right? We got a 2.2x return on our initial investment. But what we also got was brand equity. So we've got community, we got 125 ambassadors, we got high profile influencers, we got investment as well, and we got customer acquisition.
And are these HYROX athletes?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But outside of the HYROX ecosystem, because of the alignment with the partnership, we got inbound and secured deals and terms with a lot of strategic partners and high profile like individuals and investors and media opportunities because of that partnership as well.
It reminds me, I was telling you this before too, is just people listening to the show obviously have heard me in my background at Kalo, but the creator of the Silicone Wedding Ring, we entered the CrossFit community, very similarly to when you guys entered with HYROX 2013, 2014. CrossFit's going like this. It's just exploding. It's the new thing on the block. Sponsored the games. We created a product that had a, kettlebell on it. We sponsored, like Girls Gone Wild podcasts in the CrossFit community. We had Jason Khalipa, a huge ambassador at the time. Like, it was like what I say, full circle approach. Like, we were doing everything to basically say, hey, Kalo's here. We're serious about the community. We're serious about CrossFit. And it reminds me of those early days. HYROX is definitely like, taking market share right now from CrossFit just because they're tapping on something that CrossFit had on in the early days, which is that community aspect of just like tons of joy, tons of fun. People are getting fit, but it's really difficult pushing each other. So that's incredible that you guys got that partnership without really like any proof of concept. Like Kayla had some years, like they were featured on Hard Knocks on HBO. They had some NFL player ambassadors at the time. So
yeah, I think that's really just a testament to relationships. As we spoke off mic as well, I'd spent a little bit of time with the head of growth, and we spoke about what they were planning on doing with franchising and whatnot, and I've just nurtured that relationship over time. And I always say that to people, and it's always relationships over transactions. At the end of the day, if you're chasing quick wins and cheap wins and trying to get ahead and get over your network in some way, shape, or form, it's always going to, you might get ahead initially, but in the long run, it's the relationships that are the assets that really last, right? And this was a great example of that.
So for like brand owners listening to this, obviously, like there's probably for every story like yours partnering with HYROX, not every one of them can predict the, skyrocket rocket ship that HYROX is on and just ride the coattails. I'm sure there's been a lot of money drained with strategic partnerships that have really just been multiple six figures down the drain. So how was it? Like, is it something that you just saw just based on your experience with F45? And then also, what was different about the partnership? Like, I'm assuming you're doing, you're setting up booths at every event. Are you just traveling? You're on the road 300 days a year, like going to every event? Like, you're just, kissing babies and shaking hands?
I like to say shaking babies and kissing hands.
Yeah, there you go. What was the deliverables on their end too, right? Like, how did they support you? Because a partnership is a partnership, right? It goes both ways. So there's a lot there, but I guess speak to like what probably is in most people's heads of, okay, not every partnership is going to be a HYROX, or maybe it's a little too late, to partner with HYROX. Like, what was unique about the partnership?
Yeah, mate, that's a great question. I'll unpack it because there is a lot there. So first and foremost, the reason that I knew the partnership would be a very valuable asset to Manly as a growth platform, right? I looked at the numbers. They were in the US for a couple of years before we took the partnership on, but in the UK and in Europe, their events were massive. Tens of thousands of athletes and attendees per event. And they were scaling fast. The US, and I know this firsthand, exactly what you said from the F45 franchise days and scaling those franchises. The US is a tough nut to crack in any vertical, especially in health and wellness. There's so much competition here. Americans are definitely more fickle when it comes to what they support and what they choose and where they spend their money. Definitely over Australians. We just throw our credit cards at anybody, to be honest with you. But I'd seen the growth that they presented to me over a couple of years' time. And I looked at the health and wellness market as a whole, and I looked at the CrossFit games essentially. And the difference between HYROX and CrossFit, and the reason that HYROX is scaling so fast, is because they created an inclusive sport. You can't go to a CrossFit games and compete at a big stadium in front of thousands of people unless you are top 40 in the world, the 0.01%, right? But at HYROX, you can do that. Anyone can go and join. You can join any division and you can compete, right? And that's the beautiful part of it. And they created such a massive display and a really well-oiled event that created community and hype for people, whether they are elite endurance athletes or they are just starting and they wanted to challenge themselves. They can still get the same experience, which is why they're growing so fast. in terms of the deliverables in the partnership and the reason why it's been so successful for us, the main reason is because when we got the partnership, as I said, it was all of our resources. So the team I had at the time, I let them know that we're not going to show up at HYROX at any event unless we show up powerfully. And by powerfully, I mean providing value to the whole ecosystem outside of just trying to sling our product, because that's what every other brand does. They're just there trying to pitch their product, right? So we wanted to create value and give back to the ecosystem so that we would then be the number one kind of go-to brand inside that ecosystem, even though we're with the underdog and the smallest we're up against, like Puma and Red Bull and things like that. And what that did was created a lot of brand equity for us because we gained a lot of trust. And so what we did was we hosted a series of brand activations in line with HYROX National Race Tour, right? And so we hosted an event, partnered with HYROX, and I hosted a panel with the elite top athletes in the sport, in the world, and also the founder of HYROX, also the head of growth of HYROX. And we would get 100, 150, 200 people at a community event, connect with them and give them the opportunity to engage with these guys, which they would not normally have. So Q&As, panel talks about, what's happening on a global scale. That provided a lot of trust and credibility for us as well. When it comes to, working directly with HYROX, what we had was a 365-day digital activation. So that's across every platform, every vertical that they had in the US. We were positioned as the exclusive men's health partner. And we had access to run not as many campaigns as we like, but like a decent amount of campaigns per month to specific target demographics in order to build trust, build credibility.
Through what? Organic social, email? Like what is this going through?
Email and organic social. And organic social. Mainly email at the time, and collaborate on a number of different campaigns through organic social as well.
So you're getting access into the HYROX's like customer file size, essentially.
Essentially, yes. Yeah. So any demographic and target audience that we wanted to send a specific offer to or message to or campaign to, we would be able to do so. And for us as a startup, we went from 1,000 emails to 15,000.
Yeah, so that was part of the initial investment. That wasn't like on top of.
No, that's part of the deal. Correct. Yeah.
I mean, that's worth its weight in gold right there. Just that alone. You should have just led with that. That's crazy, man.
Yeah, 100%. And look, that was the value of the partnership was stacked, right? And so we had the digital access to really, really get creative. And at the time, when we launched Manly, the HYROX had 3,000 athletes. The New York City event that we just did, which closed this last season, they had 16,000 athletes, and there was 30,000 people there, or 40,000 people there. So you can see the size of the growth that they had over the last 12 months, right?
So multiple six figures investment. How many emails or customers do you think HYROX has? Do you even know that total? Like people that have entered their information to go to a race?
I don't know the updated. Globally, I know this year they'll close with 1.2 million athletes. So they normally double that in spectators at each event as well, which is a significant number. That's globally though. So in the US, when we signed initially, it was 250,000 athletes that they had in the US.
So you're essentially paying $1
a person.
I want to use, yeah, like an email. Every brand in the world would sign up for that, right?
Yeah. Look, we don't get access to that database. We get access to run campaigns through that database from HYROX.
Sure, but essentially it's the same thing, right? You're getting free access to a bunch of people to advertise them. Not free, because obviously you pay for the partnership. But when you're breaking it down to $1 to $2 to $3, even $4 an email, that you don't own, but you still can freely distribute your brand to, that's massive, massive. So the rest of this LinkedIn post, you said you averaged 32% month over month growth with $0 in paid acquisition costs.
Correct.
Well, let's double click on that, because I think you compared the partnership to I could throw multiple six figures into paid ads, or I could throw multiple six figures into the HYROX partnership, which gives me the community, the brand equity, the trust, also gave me customers, like you said, a 2.2x return. So you obviously got money back in. I think I want to double click on this because you're talking to the Bottom Line host podcast. I run an e-commerce growth agency. We run millions of ad spends every month for brands. You might be thinking, why are you spending that money? But oftentimes the biggest unicorn brands that I talk to and the brands that I think are set up for better success. And if I had a brand to start, I would not be immediately dumping money into paid ads. It's exactly what you've done. The hack is building an audience, building a community without having to spend a dime on paid acquisitions is actually the hack. There is no hack, so I use that word like kind of tongue in cheek, but it's a huge advantage, man. Like, when you're talking also in comparison to influencers or YouTube creators that have this massive audience, millions of subscribers, and then they launch a D2C brand or e-commerce product, they're thinking about it very correctly. Because like I have an audience, now I have something to deliver to that audience versus I'm having to pay to acquire an audience and also for them to buy my product at the same time.
Yeah. I agree. The zero acquisition cost is, it's a gray area in that sense as well, because we spent money on the sponsorship, right? But there's so many other value adds that are attributed to that spend in that sense. So it's not a direct one-for-one CAC in that sense. But going through the process, we ended up with all expenses all in about a $400 CAC per customer at the end of what we spent on the sponsorship, what the cost was for us to get my team there, flights, accommodation, meals, every spend. Which is relative to what our LTV is as well. So the ROAS on what that would have been positive as well. And to be honest, to get a return of a 2.25, I believe it was 2.25 return on our first sponsorship in our first year of being on the market is a pretty substantial accomplishment. And now we know exactly what works. So we found out the offer, the messaging, and the strategy that works in order to be able to acquire customers at each of these events as well.
Massive. Yeah. Have you thought about running now paid ads on top of this audience now that you have?
Absolutely. The only reason that we haven't at this time is really because of capital allocation. So we've gone through transparently a number of significant transitions and improvements, which we're currently actually building out right now, which are, again, capital intensive, but it is required for us to scale. So once these are complete, built, tested, and we've run beta on them, then we're going to be able to actually spend money on acquisition and grow more predictively as well. We've got another 11 events coming up starting in September with HYROX. We have a very predictable conversion model at those events now, which we figured out from the last season. So we expect to do very well this season. But also on top of that, as you know, when we run ads, we can geo-target the entire area. We can use all of the audiences to target the entire area as well when we're in each city. So not only will you see Manly's pre-marketing on organic social, through email, through our channels as well, on PR platforms, and at the event with our hundreds of athletes wearing the brand, and then also the branding that we have at the event, you'll also be receiving our ads while you're at the event as well. So it should be a pretty powerful, very impactful strategy that we're going to launch this season.
Outside of this partnership, obviously there's word of mouth. There's people that are now using the product and they're telling their friends and stuff like that. And you're hitting the HYROX emails or whatever that you got emails that you're hitting people up with. Is there any other channels that have been effective for you guys in terms of customer acquisition?
Yeah, we had a very big focus on building a community first brand from day one. And our core community is our ambassador team, essentially. And so the theory behind a really tight and very well-oiled ambassador program is to make sure that it does two things. Number one, it compounds on itself month over month, meaning the ambassador team grows organically month over month because we have a lot of ambassador acquisition channels available to us, but also we've built something that is so valuable to the individual that they're referring people into the ecosystem. And with that, the higher percentage of the individuals that are in there that can make a higher percentage of volume of sales over time, again, it's just going to compound on itself. And so we're very early on with that as well. It's starting to do really well, but we run a very tight-knit community. We host community-only activations, athlete-only activations. Every month we do a community call, and I'll bring on a strategic, keynote speaker, an authority in their space to talk to the group about something they want to learn about. And we've got a really good kind of commission structure program for that as well. The other strategy that has worked very well for us is obviously high-profile influencer marketing. And so being a startup, we do not have $10,000 to $15,000 to spend per influencer for 2-3 posts a month, right? And so what I did was we actually reversed the normal deal terms of the influencer marketing strategy. So I have a round open, and so instead of us paying them, I got them to invest in the company and then matched their investment with shares in order to get a contract for a creative contract. And so we were able to scale to just over 6,000 in audience from 6 million, in audience from our high profile influencers right now. And we'll target with 10 by the end of the quarter, which we should get.
That's amazing. That's a creative way to partner. Very similar to some of other people that even some of the things that I did at Kalo when I was working on brand side and just from an equity standpoint, but smart, man. Well, we're coming up on time. What would be something that you're thinking about actively that you're wanting to help maybe other founders, even founders way ahead of you, 9-figure founders? What would be your piece of advice, and what would be your piece of advice to someone just starting out?
2 different pieces of advice I'll give. I think the first one for anyone just starting out, I know this is going to sound very cliche, so I don't want it to come off that way, but entrepreneurship and being a founder is a great idea, but it's not for everybody. It is the hardest thing that you will ever do in your life, besides climb Mount Everest, essentially, right? And so I highly recommend that anyone that is deciding to launch a product or company or brand or anything to find someone that has accomplished similar success to what they have accomplished, and then study them, read their books, listen to their podcasts. And once they have done that, then figure out if they're prepared to do the work and make the sacrifice in that sense. That's the first part. For someone that's essentially in front of me, a piece of advice would just be to keep going. That's very simple. Keep going.
There you go. Keep going because you're inspiring Luke.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
There you go. Where do people find you, man? If they want to, obviously, Manly is MNLY.com, or is it Get Manly?
GET, Get Manly.
Yeah, GET, getmanly.com. And then also, where do people want to connect with you? Where are you most active?
Yeah, look, IG is always the best spot. So it's LUKE_Hartelust. Or you can jam with us on Manly as well, which is at GETMNLY. Cool.
Awesome, man. Luke, appreciate the time. Super, super fun pod to break down. Congrats on all the success and fast rising. And I'll see you at the next HYROX race.
Thanks, Cody. Appreciate the time, mate.